Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah, even though, as you reminded me, just don't ever say anything about DC, because when I do, I'm thinking that my streak of not talking about DC news was intact. What happens?
Hey, when you say intact, how long was the streak? Because
I made it a month.
A month?
Hey, that's good for me. That's good. That's good, considering that I was just any little morsel I would throw it on the rundown, and then I made it maybe a month and a week or something like that. So I was doing well, and then I had a relapse.
Okay, listeners, please tell me someone has been tracking. Because
it's been at least a month
with a lot of things except for his streak. So can someone please go back and tell me when is the last time he brought it up, and so we can have the exact math. Really appreciate that. You will hear our Twitter handles at the end of this of how you can get that information to me. But yeah, very curious. But yeah, literally overnight, you have basically a full paragraph of things you want to talk about regarding the news. And okay, things I want to talk about too. I tend to rely on Will to really give me the news updates. And I blame time differences. Yeah. Y'all, I have that card. There's a huge time difference.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, I don't even know where to start with this. I mean, the one thing that I really want to get off my chest in regards to all of the DC news is in regards to Wonder Woman 3.
Yeah, let's go. Let's just start there.
Yeah. Not going to happen. And the moment I saw that, Will, I thought to myself, color me not surprised at all. I just, I just look back at when Patty Jenkins came out on, I don't know, when they did the big Star Wars unveil, and she had a moment talking about, I think it was Rogue Squadron.
Yep, that's the one.
Right.
Which is also shelved now, yeah.
Yeah, exactly my point. There was something about it that just rubbed me the wrong way, and I already had a mental note saying, yeah, that's going to get canceled. And so considering how unloved Wonder Woman 1984 is, I am really not surprised by this. Just between, I don't know. I feel like what Patty Jenkins did was lightning in the bottle with the original Wonder Woman. And if she could capture that again, she would have done so with the sequel.
Yeah.
But she really didn't and I don't think you can blame that on COVID or anything. That's just a bad movie.
It is. It is.
At the end of the day. It's a bad movie that Will made me watch twice.
Funny about that, because we were going to do obviously it was during the pandemic, so everyone was doing watch-alongs and stuff during that time, and we were planning on doing one until we watched it.
Yeah, and I'm like, no way in hell, no way, I can't do that. First of all, it's forever. Second of all, it's bad. Yeah. But I mean, watching bad movies with friends is always funny. But yeah, still recording your reactions. I don't know. And then you were telling me during the pre-show that the main reason is because apparently she decided to walk away because she didn't like the feedback and the honesty of, hey, your ideas for this script suck.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? If only we had that for 1984.
Exactly. Yeah. Because of course, when the news first broke yesterday, it was James Gunn and Peter Safran they got the script treatment from Patty and a couple other DC execs as well, and they just really didn't like it, and as we've gotten more information, the feedback was given to her, So they didn't. So it didn't sound like the project was going to get canceled there at first. But when apparently, according to, I think there's like, depending on which trade you look at, bottom line sounds like, I think the consensus is she didn't like the feedback and she has taken her ball and going home. So,
right.
And interestingly enough, I guess this was Tuesday or Wednesday. I thought it was Tuesday. Yeah, Gal Gadot, sent out a tweet to say, "I'm so looking forward to playing Wonder Woman again," because I guess it was the anniversary of the first film, because with that, with the iconic scene of her coming out of the trench, and or was Wonder Woman the original? That was a summer movie, right? I think it was a summer movie, but in any event. Yeah, in any event, yeah, but she, so people were reading it many ways, whether it's, did she get a heads up that this was about to happen and she was just sort of trying to distance herself from Patty, or whatever the case may be. I think she is still playing Wonder Woman again is still apparently in the cards for her now. So even though this particular film by Patty's done, I think Peter Safran and James Gunn are still open to her continuing as the character, because she was like you said at the beginning. That movie was lightning in a bottle, and everything from critical, box office, fan reaction, everyone universally liked it. So yeah.
Because of Chris Pine's blue eyes. Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the chemistry between her and Chris Pine, like it is lightning in the bottle. And so as much as I hate 1984, there are scenes I still really like.
That was the redeeming quality of that film.
It's just crazy to me. And then I'm like, where is the romantic comedy starring those two? Because that should have happened 5 years ago.
Yeah, for real.
So I mean, when you get chemistry like that, and I think if a lot of these directors who came onto these franchises, I think James is probably taking a page from Feige's book and is like, no, we're going to tell this story, and either you can be a part of it, and but that's a collaborative process, or you can go and make your independent films, and tell the stories that you want to, but that's not how it's going to work here. So and I think, again, that's what DC has needed for a very long time, is someone to really look at it from the perspective of from the 1,000-foot perspective, as opposed to these independent franchises that are all of a sudden going to get tied all together, and then it's like, no, it has to be a consistent story through and through, at all levels. So and it's funny, because while you were talking about Gal Gadot, I kept looking at that headline about how, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Aquaman 2 will be Jason Momoa's last appearance as a character, and then Gunn may cast him as Lobo. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Will.
Yeah.
Did we or did we not, when Lobo appeared in this lovely little underappreciated show called Krypton, did we not say Jason Momoa would knock that shit out of the park?
I think we did. We had to go back and check the tape. I mean, that's been about 4 or 5 years ago now, but it was, we did. I think you're right. Yeah.
So if you're telling me we can lose Aquaman, but in return we get Lobo, hell yes.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Exactly.
Miss Krypton.
Oh, yeah. For sure. But you're right. I mean, that was that Lobo story. First was there. I know. Also, the James Gunn did go to Twitter today, because he is, like you said, he is really becoming the Feige, even though Feige always does the big presentations at Comic-Con and other things, but James goes to Twitter, and he did say that. So So, as far quote, as far as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it's true, some of it's half true, some of it's not true, and some of it we haven't decided yet whether it's true or not. And he goes on, on the stream, and he does talk about the fact that, like as you were saying, the DC universe is very fractured because apparently the Matt Reeves project, for example, is still going to go forward as far as Batman 2. And I was
that doesn't it's me.
Yeah, but also I was also reading another story before, as prepping for tonight, just right before we started. How I guess J.J. Abrams' Black Superman project is still alive, and a couple others as well. So,
still, even if they're alive right now, let's just, and as much as James seems to be making some good decisions, this is the same studio that brought us 14 years in the making, Black Adam.
Okay.
So like again, I like the decisions James is making. Do I trust the studio? Hell no.
Yeah, well,
I don't trust anything until I'm in the theater watching the movie.
Yeah, for real. For real.
When I see a Flash trailer, I'm like, I still don't think it's coming.
well, Flash. Yeah, well, they did. Funny. They moved the Flash up from June 23rd to June 16th. So they moved it up a week. And I guess in all this other, there's just so many things that drop with this because there's the whole Henry Cavill aspect of this, and one of the things that that was brought up again is whether or not Henry has a deal to play Superman with studio. And of course he released that Instagram video sometime back saying I'm back as Superman, and I guess if he was just talking about the cameo that he filmed for the Flash film, then yeah, he's back for that, assuming that it will make the cutting room floor, because that film apparently is still unlocked. So they're still tweaking with it and making adjustments to it. And Jason Momoa and Gal are also rumored to be possible cameos. And it is, given that it is Flashpoint, as far as the theme of the plot of the film, it makes total sense that all these characters could show up. But yeah, so so there's that piece. And and as I said, also there's Joker 2. So all these other things. So I guess it sounds like there's still going to be this box of stuff that has already been greenlit that James Gunn's going to have to just work around or work through. And then I guess once the Snyderverse films all sort of wrap themselves up, which I guess we'll have the Flash next year and Aquaman 2 at the end of the year. Then I guess we'll just sort of see what happens there. Will they just use these actors and just recreate a new universe with Jason as Lobo now? And I guess Ezra Miller, will go. Who knows what'll happen with it? But then also, I was listening to Roca and Jeff Snyder on the N Schneider today, and I guess speaking of another project that was cut, I guess apparently they were going to do a Michael Keaton solo Batman film, but apparently they got the kibosh as well. So there's just little scoops and little things that are dropping like left and right with this story. So this is a gold mine for folks in our space, as far as like
right.
It's a content generator for at least a week.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like DC is a content generator for our entire podcast for years.
Oh yeah.
But on that note, like something that I hope James does and is the ixnay on let's have multiple versions of these characters, especially the quote unquote Holy Trinity, because we've said it, like we used to watch Batwoman. It's so oversaturated, that world, that we just spent an entire season of Titans with that mythology, and no matter what they do, it's never as interesting as Bruce Wayne in the city, and we have that right now. So I feel like they have it stuck in their minds that this is something that can be mined. And yeah, I understand that considering the Joker made $1 billion, but at the same time,
Yeah.
these other projects, they're not the Joker. It's not. The Joker is barely a comic book movie. Like, it is a very disturbing and depressing movie.
You're right. You're right.
So,
it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I just worry about like DC still dipping into these quote unquote wells that we've like, come on guys, get some new characters. And I mean, hopefully he does that, considering this is James Gunn, who made Peacemaker like arguably one of my favorite shows and characters over the last year. And we were really, I first got to know James Gunn when he introduced us to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and nobody really knew about them before. So I just hope that he does not focus on the Holy Trinity. Like, you can make this a bigger universe without having 45 versions of Batman. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. And I think, we do have Blue Beetle coming up next year. Right. I mean, we got for example, even though that was greenlit under the prior regime, but to your point, James could use a character like that. I mean, hell, like Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. I mean, I know Blue Beetle's a little bit higher up in the public consciousness than Polka Dot Man, but point being that you made, he has a track record of taking characters that aren't so well known and really tell good stories with them, because honestly, since they aren't as well known, there's the expectations are not as high because you've had this big mythology that's built up around the Holy Trinity. And so you do have a little bit more freedom, like what you have with a Peacemaker, to tell that story. And so, so I think that's the one thing that I am very encouraged about having James at the helm of DC Studios, because he and Peter Safran will have that freedom, and then, and hopefully we'll run with that and be commercially successful, and not having to send sad tweets like Dwayne Johnson is saying, "Oh yeah, I made a profit," which that's a whole nother story. But that's Black Adam.
What I want James to do, because correct me if I'm wrong, but there's one of my favorite characters from the Suicide Squad was a little rat named Sebastian.
Yep.
So where is the Sebastian Eagly buddy cop drama? Like, come on. We have an I Am Groot little thing. So I want Sebastian and Eagly prime time.
There you go. Well, apparently they will have the live action and DC animation, so they could do I know those are live action characters, but maybe they could do it like an animated thing, because I mean DC's animated house has been overall, kicking ass. Unlike
what was that thing from Doom Patrol?
I was just thinking that Steel and Stone. I was just thinking that when you were like,
Steel and Stone for life. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I'm glad Doom Patrol is coming back. Steel and Stone, love it.
Yep.
In other news, and talking about universes expanding, The Boys TV spinoff Gen V dropped its first teaser trailer this past weekend. Now, Will, I watched this, but I don't remember anything.
Yeah. Only thing I remember was just a lot of blood. It just seemed honestly, when I watched it, I felt like they were just trying too daggone hard to be edgy, just because it's The Boys. That was that was my vibe from the trailer.
Yeah, I will be honest. I remember seeing the thumbnail for this pop up over the weekend, not really remembering about the Gen V, the boys spinoff show.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I saw it on the rundown, like, oh, I have to, okay. Yeah. And then I watched it and I'm like, okay, this just, I got CW vibes from it personally, like a very R-rated CW vibe.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they're marketing it that way when the boys, let's look back on how they market their seasons. There's a lot of blood, but they do it in such a satire way that the trailers are hilarious, and so I don't know, there's something off, but we're suckers for this stuff, so of course we're gonna watch it. And, I mean, we're watching Titans, so we're gonna watch Gen V. Okay, we're gonna watch Gen V, but it's really gonna take a character like Homelander, which, on that note, love that Antony Starr is getting the recognition that he deserves. Why this man has not won an Emmy is beyond me, I don't even think he's been nominated for an Emmy, but every time we're watching The Boys, we talk about him and this performance because it's just uncanny to me how this despicable character, for some reason, I'm just like, but I like you. I don't know why. I really shouldn't. There's something weird here.
Yep.
But I was so happy when I saw that news about him finally being nominated for a Critics' Choice Award. And along with, I know Andor got a lot of accolades.
Yeah, Diego Luna was also in the Best Actor category, and the show was in Best Drama. Yep.
Yeah, Diego, I love you, but if the show is called Andor, that's enough. I don't think Antony Starr just does something else with Homelander.
Yeah,
I don't think he's gonna win.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, if anything, that's that category, because also Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul. I mean, I know, but Better Call Saul and like Abbott Elementary, I guess, were like the runaway nominees for Critics' Choice in the acting categories and comedic, drama and comedy and everything else. But also our other House of the Dragon, it was also nominated in the drama category.
Yeah.
And as well as obviously Euphoria. And I think Severance was another one. I know you just recently watched it.
Yeah, I did. I'm not as big on Severance. Probably because House of Dragon, that's my favorite show of the year. No surprise to anybody who listens to me talk about TV shows. Oh, yeah. I'm curious, did the girl who played younger Rhaenyra, did she get nominated?
She did for supporting, Yes, Amelia Aycock, did get nominated, and Matt Smith were the only acting categories. Both were supporting actors and actresses. Those were the only performance categories for that show. I was really surprised Patty didn't get nominated.
Okay. Everybody, please strike from record everything I said about the Critics' Choice nominations, because are you kidding me? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
I was looking for Patty, and I did not see him on the list, and I was just like, really? I would have, as much as I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else is on the category I would knock out, but
I would, I just went on a rant about Antony Starr. Did you not see the walk to the throne? Come on!
Yeah,
didn't you not see his final episode? That is a master class. But whatever. Fine. As long as he's nominated and wins the Emmy, I will be okay.
I agree. I think we'll probably see Patty for People's Choice, and then I would think the Emmys. You're right.
It will be riots.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be riots, but come on. Did you not see the walk to the throne?
Exactly.
God. Yeah. Man, award shows are weird.
They are.
Oh my God. Anyways, all right. So going from talking about shows and awards and critical acclaim, we're gonna move on to what you want to do. Do you want to talk about a series finale or a mid-season break?
Let's do a mid-season break first.
Okay. So it's been weeks since we've really sat down and talked about Titans. I have actually managed to stay up on this show. Like I've been caught up. Will had to do a binge, and you'll hear about that in a minute. But I've managed to watch basically week to week.
I will say this: even though I know I didn't stay up week to week, this has probably been the most consistent start to this show. Because normally, I know we talked about it the last time when we talked about Titans, and after the third episode or so, it kind of falls off. Because like for example, when Hank was killed, that was sort of like peak of that season, and then it kind of muddled through, and then it like ended.
Right. That was the end of a 3-episode arc that they did to launch the previous season, which to me is the best 3 episodes in all of Titans.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that why you're saying it's consistent is because I agree with you to an extent that the first half of the season, they clearly knew there was going to be a break. So they wrote it and structured these, 6 episodes?
Yep,
5 episodes?
Yep.
6 episodes. So that you saw this descent of Sebastian into becoming Brother Blood, and how that's connected to Mother Mayhem, who is also his mother, and how he's connected to Raven, who actually has not been bothering me this season. She's been used correctly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they have written her very well, and I guess isn't she also Sebastian's like half sister?
Yes, because they're both. Trigon is both of their fathers, except the prophecy always talked about a girl, and so when Sebastian was born, he was discarded. Which, looking at it is actually a cool twist, because typically they would discard the girl in favor of the boy. So it's an interesting little thing that they did there. Now, that all being said, why the heck did they screw up Connor? Connor, for me, has always been very interesting. And this season, I thought we were going to get the Connor story, like the Connor saga. And man, like, you kill Lex in the first episode, and next thing you know, it's not what they could have done with the Superman mythology that they did last season with the Batman mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because you still have Dick Grayson as the lead, or if it's because they like, what do you know? Another DC show doesn't understand Superman. Like,
yeah.
I mean, go and talk to Lois and Superman writers. What can I tell you? Go and grab the Krypton writers.
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed by that, and I see the flirtation between Jinx and him, and I know where that's going. But yeah, and then I also don't really, I kind of understand what they're doing with Gar, but I still feel they're not using him. It's not meshing as well as it could be with everything else that's going on, especially given him and Connor are best friends, and his relationship with Rachel.
Yeah.
So I feel like they are a bit scattered at the moment with what they want to do, and it's a constant game of like, oh, but let's just focus on making sure the viewer sees how Sebastian becomes Brother Blood. Like, let's, as opposed to focusing on these hero narratives, we're gonna like make that our primary focus, or the through line, and maybe we'll figure out in the second half how to tie everything together.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and I think with the Connor stuff, take each character for me. I agree with you with Connor. I mean, I think he was the MacGuffin for how
Yes.
Dick and basically how Mother Mayhem and was going to get Sebastian to come and drink out of the blood and fulfill the line there, so that with the blood moon and all that kind of stuff. So I there were points in this first half of this season where I was kind of like, okay, all right, yeah, you got infested with the snake and you're doing these things, and we have the Lex story and the Clark story and how the daddy issues, and we thought we were resolved with them, but we're not. But so I agree with you. There are some points where I felt Connor was one of the more interesting characters in the past seasons. Not, kind of just used as a plot device to move things along. I will say though that with the thing that I did like in Connor's arc was really leaning into the Lex side of the personality. And like, because we start the 6th episode and he shaves his head and really,
right.
So like you said, they have all these various threads, and then so we're going to pull on this thread of Lex Connor and see where that goes, and so seeing that dynamic between him and Dick during that episode, and as far as especially like how they were going to try to cut things off as far as the having the blood moon and all that kind of stuff. Well, I really like that piece of it with the first half. Gar, I think they've been doing Gar really well this season because they finally gave him a purpose.
Yeah,
with introducing the red and really, like, I guess since they really are digging into the metaphysical and the magical in this season, and having him tap into one of these elemental forces in the DC universe, so he can see into the future and really fully realize his powers. I mean, like he finally was the gorilla, that which everybody's for Beast Boy. That's all. We've been waiting for that. So I think they've been really utilizing Gar a lot better this season, and then Raven the same. I like how they've had Raven and Corey paired off before, but I think now, since I guess Gar and Raven both are matured and they're not, now Tim Drake is the new guy, and Gar and Raven are the more mature hero. Next, I guess the middle level heroes in the bunch. So so I like the dynamic they have with Corey and Raven.
Yeah. No, I mean, maybe that's why I like what they did in this last episode with Corey and Rachel, because we've seen it before, and how it was a twist on the first season where Corey was out to kill Rachel. And then, so you thought like, oh, so they're gonna like convince Sebastian that, I mean, I knew at the end of the day Corey was going to try to kill Sebastian, but yeah. I mean, you see your future unborn child, and it's like nobody's ever going to take that away from me. And maybe that's why it's like what I was trying to explain before is it's not that I don't like what they're doing with Gar.
Yeah.
I just think it's a bit messy, and maybe that's because I'm not seeing as much potential. Like he seems very independent from everyone else, which is both good and bad because he's been very dependent in the past and kind of like to your point, kind of just an accessory to a bunch of other people's storyline. Now he has his own storyline, but maybe I wish that Dick was more tied to that, just like Corey's still tied to Rachel. So we could still see how these two characters who have stepped into these like maternal and paternal figures for these two adolescents are like they're aging together. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, I agree, like I said, to an extent that it's a very consistent 6 episodes. They knew what they wanted to do, but I do still have a sense of spinning a lot of threads.
Yeah.
And my trust that everything will come together, very thin. like this show has done me so dirty in the past that I'm like, I don't know.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. That's why I was kind of reluctant. That's why I was just sort of like, okay, we had other things that we were covering, and also just other shows that I kind of picked up on, like Tulsa King and other things I was really getting into. So I was like, I'll get to Titans when I get to it. But I guess I was pleasant, as I said earlier, I was pleasantly surprised. They maybe it was to their. I mean, I think they listened to us and many other folks that, as far as fixing that middle, because maybe breaking things apart to do 6, and I think it's 6 or 7 on the back end, really. Yeah, I mean, it follows the old traditional model of like having a mid-season break and ending things on the cliffhanger, which they definitely did so with Brother Blood and wiping out everybody, but I guess Gar, and who else survived? Was it just Gar, or did Rachel also make it from whenever he screamed out at the end? I can't remember right now, but I know Gar did because he went into the red, so he's like in the multiverse, which I guess that's how I know we'll talk about Stargirl in a bit, and I guess that's how Courtney will somehow show up in the second back half of season 4, because they're all on different Earths. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that she was showing up on Titans.
Yeah. Yep, she will be there. So, and I guess, because I mean, like I said, we don't know what happened to the rest of them. They all disappeared when Sebastian yelled out. So So like there's a lot of, like you said, completely agree with you. There are a lot of threads that they have left, but I think the way they having the season structured the way that they have structured it, I think will hopefully on the back end we'll have a just as consistent narrative on the back end, and will be a satisfying season 4 for this show.
Yeah, well, now I just have fears of a crossover, like kind of causing like whatever. Crossovers are very hard to pull off and work correctly for all shows involved. Like sometimes it just feels like a pit stop or a detour, or like, man, we were going strong and then we had to finish this crossover and now we're back here. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, and on that note, why don't we jump into Stargirl and its series finale? Stargirl is another show that I think maybe we talked about once or twice as the season has been on, just because we've prioritized other shows over it. And it was announced earlier this year that this is its final season. And the writers knew beforehand, so they were prepared, and this is a perfectly fine season of Stargirl.
Mhm.
I don't have much to say. I kind of, in the back of my mind, had it like, so I'm pretty sure Starman's the bad guy. Like I what all of the quote unquote twists didn't really catch me off guard.
Mhm.
I still like it was, I don't like it when people die and then come back and then come back and all of this. So I was kind of annoyed the moment Icicle showed up, and then and I don't know, this whole other what is he called? What's the humanite?
Ultra
Ultra
Humanite.
yeah.
Yeah, that took over. Starman. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he's the real bad guy in Starman's body, and then you have Dragon King back. Oh wait, Dragon Tree's now an albino monkey.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it was cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we always said it. One thing. Yeah. I mean, we Stargirl is one of those shows that, especially when the other CW DC shows are really starting to like show their age. With the exception of, well, I know we still like Batgirl, not Batgirl, Batwoman, but you know, we had to drop the Flash because for obvious reasons, and picked up Stargirl because, like you said, I mean, it's a good show. I mean, it was, you know, it wasn't like blow blow you off your socks out of your socks story, you know, show where it was like must watch TV, but it was, you know, it was a good hour of just solid, enjoyable television. You know, especially because, you know, we really did enjoy that first season. That when it was, you know, that first season was actually on the DC Universe app, and it was, you know, it felt like
I've really enjoyed all of the seasons. I mean,
yeah,
they've all had their peaks in their pun
yeah,
intended valleys,
mhm,
but like this show, all three seasons, looking back on it, you can see the structure, you can see what
yeah,
they were doing. It makes a lot of sense. I don't feel like they wasted a lot of time
it
with the
didn't.
characters. I think it had a very strong supporting cast.
Hmm.
And the only person who ever really bothered me was Courtney,
Yeah,
the
I thought
main character.
about. Yeah, actually, I thought about that when I was watching the show last night, and when she had her confrontation with Icicle,
Mhm.
because I don't know if you noticed, but Courtney, the actress who played her, she adopted a different tone in her voice whenever she reclaimed the staff from fake Starman. And it was a more deeper, you know, confident. It was a more confident voice and confident delivery as far as
Mhm.
whenever she confronted him. And I was like, I thought of you at that moment because I was like, oh, we got grown up Courtney now. And you're right. I mean, that's all three seasons. They really did have that arc as far as just showing we had the learning the ropes first season, and then the second season, I guess I guess it was more of the horror element, and then this season we had the murder mystery, and seeing these characters grow over time. So the only character I felt as far as in the finale that where was Yolanda, and you know, because everybody else seemed to, you know, Beth and Rick, you know, were had their nice little moment there at the end. And Beth, you know, apologized to her parents, and Rick, you know, got Solomon Grundy back. But you know,
Which
but you
I don't understand, but whatever.
oh, as far as Grundy,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess he was just like kind of lying there, just regenerating, and then he came back at the right moment. But you know, but that, again, I think that was the uh, as you noted, the creative teams were tasked to write two endings for your shows, one that
Yeah.
continue and one that where it may end, and you know, and it did show, because I mean, all the action and stuff climaxed at the middle of the episode. So the only other thing I thought was like, I felt like it was Return of the King, where we had like 5 endings.
Oh, see, I didn't make that comparison. I felt like it was a classic Flash ending. Like
Yeah.
Flash do that too. All of these CW shows, typically that season finale is always action packed for the first 20 minutes, because they've already done all the setup.
Yeah.
That penultimate, and then you get your epilogue and your tease for the future season or whatever happens.
Yeah.
And I do, to an extent, the moment where we went 10 years in the future, I'm like, dear Lord, how much in the future are we going again? So then I hear you on that Lord of the Rings reference. And I mean, Courtney still bothers me and will always irritate me, just because I've explained this in the past. I've had an issue when the hero, like, there's nothing to overcome, and I still don't really feel like she overcame anything. I felt like it was interesting to have the final showdown with her versus Icicle, and then Pat versus Starman, and I was very, I think Pat had a very, looking back reflectively on it, had a very interesting arc in terms of being a former sidekick, stepdad, and then becoming a father, or accepted as a father to someone without one, as well as a hero in his own right and a leader in his own right. And so I thought that was very clever.
Yeah.
Well as with a lot of these arcs, I think it's I'm not mad that we spent time to invest in this show and watch these characters overcome. I think the 3 seasons of television that they used very wisely.
Yeah.
I'm honestly a bit mad that the Crocs died.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were fascinating, and I did like at the end how, despite everything, like Artemis is like, no, I'm gonna get revenge for my parents.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I was surprised. I was like, oh wait, why are we? Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah. Overall, I think they put a good bow on it. Yeah.
One thing, I know one thing you mentioned about Courtney. Since it's our last time probably ever talking about the show here on the podcast, as far as the overcoming things, and I completely had forgotten about this until this episode, and then with the gambler's daughter and delivering the note at the end, because I was wondering, like, who is this character? And then it hit me like, oh yeah, that's right. Way back in the early part of the season, she was, whenever the gambler was killed, and they found that note that he left for her, and all. And Courtney did have some challenges to overcome, because remember, first season she was all thinking Starman was her dad because her dad abandoned her. Then of course she did actually meet her actual father, and you know, the guy was a deadbeat, and even to the point where he, if I recall, the locket that she had, she actually gave it to him so he could like pawn it or whatever to get whatever. And so, you know, and in that moment where she like reached to her chest, whatever, to her neck and stuff. So I mean, she did have some. It wasn't, you know, she did have a lot of emotional and attachment and those issues that she did have to overcome, and of course, you know, whenever she gave the speech about whenever the Ultra Humanite was talking to Pat, and you know, and they had that, you know, like you said, well, Pat's arc, and then her saying the same thing, how Pat became her father, you know. So I think that was one of her big arcs throughout the 3 seasons. And then whenever she gave the gambler's daughter the note, I think that was that, you know, it was a couple of things. One, she did have some closure on that issue, but also she still had she still, that she still carries that pain. So whenever she like reached up and, not knowing, but she does have a father figure in Pat now. So there were some things that she did have to, she wasn't like the perfect hero. I'm not going to use the Mary Sue because I just don't even want to go there, but
I'll use it. She was so totally Mary Sue. Like, you're not convince me. No, yeah. I hear what you're saying. I've like, that has been telegraphed this whole time. Yeah. I think that as much as I praise the writers for the arcs, their narrative arcs and their story structures, to me, the flaw is this whole I'm without a dad, especially considering from day one, we've seen her interact with Pat. And even though, this is about her accepting him as her father, and kind of becoming disillusioned to like this idea about her biological father, it didn't work for me. And to me, that, I don't know. It's just, at the end of the day, it didn't work for me. And I still think she's a Mary Sue, but yeah. Or what's the male version of that? Did anybody ever figure that out? Because there are Mary Sue boys. Maybe we just call him Luke Skywalker. The Luke Skywalker of it all. Yeah, man. But yep. Well, and we are going to talk about them again because, I mean, as you mentioned before, we're going to see her in Titans, and potentially even the Flash. So that was a nice little nugget there at the end, because that was another thing too. Jeff Johns did confirm that I guess the Jay Garrick that's on Stargirl is the same Jay on the Flash. I mean, I don't think he said it as he basically. He didn't say it directly, but he talked around it enough to be like, that's the same guy. So it's possible that we may see these characters from Earth 2 show up on the Prime Earth in the final season of The Flash, which we also got there. I guess the final season premieres February 8th. So and then we'll see Courtney again in Titans. If it's the same Courtney from our Earth, like I put that theory out there that Starr may be reaching out to her, so we shall see. Or she may be the same, or she may be the Stargirl or Earth 9. But we'll find out whenever they return in 2023. Yep, the story never ends. Yep. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, as Sarah said, the never end, like they said in the Stargirl. And you can find me on Twitter at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.snnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.